I walked into my parents' house in Naperville at 9:17 a.m. on Christmas morning, and the first thing I smelled was burnt cinnamon. Not the warm, inviting kind that makes you think of Hallmark movies and snowflakes. The acrid, hours-old kind that clings to a room after the magic's already died. The second thing I noticed was the wrapping paper. Shredded crimson and gold foil scattered across the hardwood floor like confetti after a parade no one invited me to. My boots caught on a ribbon as I stepped into the living room, and that's when I saw them. Okay, pause. I want to hear what you think is going to happen next. Drop your biggest guess in the comments below. While you're down there, tap the subscribe button to officially join the discussion. We're building a community of amazing story lovers, and I don't want you to miss out. Okay, let's find out if your prediction was right. My mother, Sharon, perched on the edge of the sectional in her cream cashmere cardigan, still holding a mug of something that had gone cold. My father, Tom, leaning back in his lazy boy, fingers laced over his stomach like a man who'd just finished Thanksgiving dinner and was deciding whether to nap or watch the Bears game. My sister, Megan, cross-legged on the floor in matching red plaid pajamas I'd never seen before, cradling a Tory Burch handbag still nested in tissue paper, grinning like she'd just won the lottery. They opened Christmas without me. On purpose. And smiled. The fireplace wasn't even lit anymore. Just cold ash and the faint ghost of a flame that had burned out at least an hour ago. On the mantel, our stockings hung in a perfect row, Mom's monogrammed S, Dad's navy T, Megan's glittery M. And mine, shoved at the end, sagging like it had been added as an afterthought. The coffee table was littered with empty Starbucks cups, crumpled napkins, and a half-eaten cinnamon roll from the bakery on Washington Street, the one I always picked up on Christmas Eve because it was tradition. No one said anything at first. Just stared. Megan's smile faltered. My mother set her mug down with a small clink that sounded louder than it should have. My father cleared his throat, that low, uncomfortable rumble he made whenever he knew he'd been caught doing something he couldn't explain away. "Oh, honey," my mother said, her voice doing that thing where it rose at the end like a question, like she was testing how much I'd tolerate. "You're here. Not Merry Christmas. Not we've been waiting for you. Just you're here." Like I was late to a dentist appointment. I stood there, coat still on, scarf hanging loose around my neck, and let my eyes scan the room one more time. Slowly. Deliberately. The way a detective surveys a crime scene. That's when I saw it. Tucked in the corner near the bookshelf, half hidden behind a potted poinsettia someone had clearly bought at Jewel-Osco last minute. A box. Wrapped in faded purple paper, I recognized immediately, because it was leftover from Megan's birthday in July. The tag was barely attached, curling at the edges, and scrawled in my mother's hurried handwriting was a name. Lena. Not Elena. Lena. My throat tightened. Not from sadness. From something colder. Sharper. The kind of clarity that only comes when you've been holding your breath for years and finally realize you can stop. Megan shifted on the floor, tucking the handbag behind her like she could hide the evidence. My father stood up halfway, then sat back down, unsure whether this moment required damage control or could be smoothed over with silence. My mother's fingers twitched toward her phone on the armrest, and that's when I noticed the picture frame on the mantel. New. Polished silver. Inside it, a photo I'd never seen before. My entire family in matching red plaid pajamas, sitting on this very couch, arms around each other, faces glowing with the kind of joy you only see in Christmas cards people send to make other people jealous. I wasn't in it. There was a space on the couch, right between my mother and Megan. An empty cushion where I should have been. Where they knew I should have been. Megan's hand rested exactly where my shoulder would have landed. "We took it earlier," my mother said quickly, too quickly. "The lighting was just perfect, and we didn't want to miss it. We'll take another one with you later, sweetheart. I promise." But we both knew she wouldn't. I stood there for 5 more seconds. Long enough for the silence to press against their chests the way it was pressing against mine. Then I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and did the one thing they never expected. I took a picture. Of the wrapping paper. Of the misspelled box. Of the family photo without me in it. Click. 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 My father's voice cracked the air. Elena, don't be dramatic. I looked at him. Really looked at him. And for the first time in 32 years, I didn't apologize. I'm not being dramatic, Dad, I said softly. I'm just remembering. I wasn't always the one they forgot. There was a time, years ago, back when we still lived in the split level on Maple Street in Schaumburg, when my mother used to wake me up first on Christmas morning. She'd tiptoe into my room while it was still dark outside, the kind of December dark that makes everything feel like a secret, and whisper, Elena, come help me with the cinnamon rolls. I'd shuffle downstairs in my fuzzy socks, and we'd work side by side in the kitchen, her humming along to Bing Crosby on the radio, me sneaking bites of icing when she wasn't looking. Back then I mattered. Or at least I thought I did. But somewhere between my sophomore year at U of I and the year Megan got engaged to a guy who worked in finance downtown, something shifted. It wasn't loud. It wasn't a fight or a falling out. It was quieter than that. More insidious. Like the way snow piles up on a driveway. One flake at a time until suddenly you can't see the pavement anymore, and you don't remember when it started. I became the reliable one. The one who didn't need checking on. The one who always showed up, always helped, always said yes when someone needed something. Need someone to pick up Grandma Dorothy from O'Hare the day before Thanksgiving? Elena will do it. Need someone to wrap all the gifts because Megan's too busy with wedding planning? Elena's got it. Need someone to coordinate the Secret Santa and make sure no one gets Uncle Jerry, who only gives lottery tickets. Elena, obviously. I didn't mind at first. I told myself it meant they trusted me. That being dependable was a strength, not a sentence. But this year, this Christmas, I thought things would be different. 3 weeks ago, I sat in a Panera on Route 59, laptop open, color-coded spreadsheet glowing on the screen, planning every detail of our family holiday. I created a shared Google document. I sent calendar invites. I booked the photographer for our annual family portrait at 10 a.m. on Christmas Day. I even drove to that specialty shop in Wheaton to pick up my dad's favorite bourbon balls, because they're only available in December, and he mentions it every single year like it's a personality trait. I did all of it because I wanted to prove something. Not to them, to myself. I wanted to prove that if I just tried hard enough, planned well enough, showed up completely enough, they'd finally see me the way they saw Megan. Not as the backup daughter, the dependable one, the one they called when they needed something fixed, but as someone worth celebrating, someone worth remembering. The group chat had been active for days. Megan sent a photo of the matching pajamas she'd ordered from Target, red plaid, very Instagram, very let's look like we have our lives together. My mother replied with 3 heart emojis. My father sent a thumbs up, which for him was basically a standing ovation. I asked in the chat, should I grab anything else for Christmas morning? My mother responded, no honey, you've done so much already. Just bring yourself. 9 a.m. sharp. 9 a.m. sharp. I screenshot that message. I don't know why. Maybe some part of me already knew. The night before Christmas, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my apartment in Lisle, staring at the ceiling, going over every detail in my mind like I was preparing for a presentation at work. The cinnamon rolls were in the fridge, ready to bake. The gifts were wrapped and labeled. I'd even written personalized cards for everyone, real cards, not the ones you grab at Walgreens 5 minutes before checkout. At 8:47 a.m. on Christmas morning, my phone buzzed. A text from my mother in the family group chat. Running a bit behind, take your time. No rush, smiling face. I smiled. I actually smiled. I thought she was being considerate. Thoughtful, even. So I took my time. I stopped at Starbucks on Ogden Avenue and grabbed a peppermint mocha because it felt festive. I sat in my car for a few extra minutes, scrolling through Instagram, watching other people's perfect Christmas mornings unfold in filtered squares. I didn't rush. When I pulled into the driveway at 9:17 a.m., I noticed my brother's Jeep was already there. So was Megan's Audi. And my Aunt Linda's Buick. Everyone had arrived. Everyone was inside. I told myself it was fine. That I was only 17 minutes late. That the day was just getting started. But when I opened that door and smelled burnt cinnamon, when I saw the wrapping paper already shredded across the floor, When I realized they'd opened everything, taken the photo, lived the entire morning without me, that's when I understood. They didn't forget me. They chose to start without me. And that was so much worse. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't collapse into the kind of dramatic scene they could later dismiss as me being too sensitive or overreacting. I just stood there, frozen in my coat, holding my phone, watching them scramble to explain something that didn't need explaining, because the truth was written all over that room. In the cold fireplace. In the empty mugs. In the misspelled name on my forgotten gift. In the family photo on the mantle where my space had been erased. I made a promise to myself in that moment, standing in the doorway of the house I grew up in, surrounded by people who were supposed to love me. I promised I would remember this. Every detail. Every word. Every face. And I promised that this silence, this aching, unbearable silence, would be the last time I let them make me feel invisible. It started on December 2nd. I remember the exact date because I was sitting in a Starbucks in downtown Naperville, the one across from the Riverwalk where tourists take photos in front of the lights every winter. My laptop was open to a spreadsheet I'd titled Ward Family Christmas 2024, color-coded, categorized, cross-referenced like I was planning a corporate merger instead of a holiday. My phone buzzed. The family group chat, the one my mother had renamed Ward Family Christmas Magic 2 weeks earlier, lit up with a message from Megan. Megan. Guys, I found the cutest matching pajamas on Target's website. Red plaid. Very classic. Very us. Thoughts. She attached a link. Within 30 seconds, my mother replied. Mom, oh Megan. These are perfect. Let's do it. Everyone okay with red plaid? Dad. My brother Jake. Sure, whatever. I stared at the screen, waiting for someone to ask me. To confirm that I'd seen the message. To check if red plaid worked for me or if I had a preference, or if I even wanted matching pajamas in the first place. Silence. I typed. Looks great. Should I order mine, or are you handling it? 3 dots appeared under Megan's name. Then disappeared. Then reappeared. Megan, I'll just grab them for everyone. Easier that way. What's your size again? She knew my size. We'd gone shopping together at Woodfield Mall 2 months earlier. But I answered anyway. Me medium. Megan, got it. That was it. No follow-up. No confirmation. Just a heart emoji that somehow felt less like affection, and more like punctuation on a sentence I wasn't part of writing. I closed the group chat, and stared at my spreadsheet. I'd already blocked out 4 hours the following weekend to finish shopping. I had a list of everyone's gifts, their sizes, their preferences, the stores where I'd find each item. I'd even mapped out the most efficient route through the mall to avoid crowds. This was my role. It had been for years. I was the coordinator. The logistics expert. The one who made sure Christmas happened smoothly so everyone else could just show up and enjoy it. But this year, I wanted more than that. I wanted to be seen. Not as the person who made the day possible, but as someone the day was made for. So I kept planning. On December 10th, I spent 6 hours shopping. I started at Von Moore in Oakbrook, moved to Target in Downers Grove, and finished at that little artisan shop in Geneva that sells handmade candles and pottery. For my mother, I found a cashmere scarf in her favorite shade of cream. For my father, a leather-bound journal he'd mentioned wanting during Thanksgiving. For Megan, a gold bracelet I knew she'd been eyeing on Instagram. For Jake, a Blackhawks jersey signed by a player whose name I had to Google, but who apparently mattered. I wrapped everything that night in my apartment, each gift folded in thick paper, tied with ribbon, labeled with handwritten tags. I added personal notes inside each card, specific, thoughtful sentences that referenced memories or inside jokes or moments I thought they'd appreciate. It took me until 2 a.m. The next morning, I woke up exhausted but satisfied. I texted the group chat. Me, gifts are wrapped and ready. I'll bring them Christmas morning. Also, I booked our family photo session for 10 a.m. on the 25th with Jessica, the photographer we used last year. She's holding the slot, but I need everyone to confirm they'll be there by 9:45 so we're not rushed. Mom, you're amazing, sweetheart. Thank you for handling all of this. Megan, you're seriously the best. Jake. I smiled. It felt like acknowledgement. Like appreciation. Like maybe, finally, they were seeing the effort I poured into holding this family together. On December 18th, I stopped by my parents' house to drop off the cinnamon rolls I'd pre-ordered from the bakery on Washington Street. My mother opened the door in her bathrobe, hair still damp from the shower. "Oh, Elena, you didn't have to do that," she said, taking the box from my hands. "I know," I said. "But it's tradition." She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "You're always so thoughtful." I waited for her to invite me in. To ask if I wanted coffee. To suggest we sit and talk the way we used to when I was younger. Instead, she glanced over her shoulder into the house. "Megan's here. We're going through wedding photos from her friend's ceremony last weekend. You know how she gets about planning hers." "Right," I said. "Of course. We'll see you Christmas morning, okay? 9 a.m. sharp." 9 a.m. sharp, I repeated. She closed the door. I stood on the porch for a moment, holding my keys, staring at the wreath she'd hung on the front door. The one I'd helped her pick out at Home Depot 3 years ago. The ribbon was fraying now, curling at the edges, but no one had replaced it. I drove home and checked the group chat one more time. Me, just confirming. Everyone's good for 9 a.m. Christmas morning, right? I want to make sure we have time for photos before things get too chaotic. Mom, yes honey. 9 a.m. We'll all be there. Megan, can't wait. Jake. I screenshot the message. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted proof. Proof that I'd asked. Proof that they'd agreed. Proof that I hadn't imagined the plan we'd all committed to. On Christmas Eve, I stayed up late baking cookies. Chocolate chip, my dad's favorite. I packed them in a tin, wrapped it, and set it by the door with everything else I'd prepared. At 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Mom, Merry Christmas Eve, sweetheart. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Sleep well." I smiled and typed back. "Me, Merry Christmas Eve, Mom. See you at 9. I went to bed believing that tomorrow would be different. That all the planning, all the effort, all the years of showing up would finally add up to something. I had no idea that by 9:17 a.m., everything I believed about my family would be shredded and scattered across the floor like wrapping paper no one bothered to save. The box sat in the corner like a secret no one wanted to claim. I didn't see it at first. My eyes were still adjusting to the scene. The torn wrapping paper, the empty mugs, the family photo on the mantel that didn't include me. But when I finally dragged my gaze away from that silver frame, I saw it. Tucked behind the poinsettia my mother always bought from Jewel-Osco at the last minute, half hidden like someone had shoved it there hoping I wouldn't notice, was a box wrapped in faded purple paper. I recognized that paper immediately. It was leftover from Megan's birthday party in July. I knew because I'd helped wrap her gifts that day, sitting at this same kitchen table, while she showed me photos of the vacation her fiancé had planned for them in Lake Geneva. The tag dangled from a piece of curling ribbon, barely attached. I stepped closer, my boots crunching on discarded tissue paper, and knelt down beside it. The handwriting was my mother's. Rushed. Slanted. The kind of handwriting you use when you're filling out a form at the DMV and just want to get it over with. It said Lena. Not Elena. Lena. My throat tightened. Not from sadness, not yet. From disbelief. From the kind of shock that makes your brain stutter. Because it's trying to reconcile what you're seeing with what you thought you knew about the people who raised you. I'd been called Elena my entire life. 32 years. Every birthday card, every report card, every Christmas letter my mother sent to relatives across the country with our family updates. She'd written my name thousands of times. And today, on the one gift they'd left for me, she got it wrong. Behind me, I heard Megan shift on the floor. The tissue paper around her Tory Burch handbag crinkled. My father cleared his throat, that low rumble he made when he was uncomfortable, but didn't know how to fix it. "We didn't forget you, sweetheart," my mother said quickly, her voice doing that thing where it rose at the end like a question. "We just ran out of time." I didn't look at her. I kept staring at the box. It was small. Rectangular. Light. I didn't even need to pick it up to know what was inside. A candle. Maybe a generic bath set. Something you grab from the clearance aisle at Target when you remember at the last second that you're supposed to get someone a gift. but you don't actually care enough to think about what they'd want. I glanced around the room, at the gifts already opened, at the evidence of what my family had received while I was sitting in my apartment, sipping a peppermint mocha, thinking I was just running a little late. Megan's handbag sat on the floor beside her, the price tag still tucked inside the tissue paper. I saw the number before she could hide it. $450. My mother's cashmere scarf was draped over the back of the couch, the kind you get at Nordstrom, not Kohl's. My father's new watch gleamed on his wrist, silver and heavy, the kind with too many dials that men wear to feel important. Jake's Blackhawks jersey was already stretched across his lap, the autograph visible even from where I knelt. And then there was my box, with the wrong name, wrapped in birthday paper, shoved in a corner. "Open it," Megan said softly. Too softly, like she was trying to smooth over something jagged. I looked at her, really looked at her. She was still holding that handbag, her fingers curled around the handles like she was afraid I might take it from her. "Why?" I asked. She blinked. "What? Why would I open it?" I said. My voice was calm, steady, the kind of calm that makes people nervous because they can't tell if you're about to cry or explode. "You already opened yours. All of you did. Without me." My mother stood up. "Elena." "It's Lena, apparently," I said, pointing at the tag. Her face flushed. "That was a mistake. I was rushing. You know how hectic Christmas morning is." "I don't actually," I interrupted. "I wasn't here for it." Silence dropped over the room like a heavy blanket. I reached for the box. Not because I wanted to open it, but because I wanted them to see me holding it. I wanted them to see the wrong name, the careless wrapping, the corner they'd shoved me into. I held it up, turned it slowly so the tag faced them. "Lena," I said again. "That's a nice touch." My father shifted in his chair. "Sweetheart, it's just a name. Don't make this bigger than." "It's my name," I said. "And you got it wrong." I set the box back down in the corner, right where they'd left it, right where it belonged. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I already knew exactly what it was worth. I should have left right then, picked up my coat, walked out, let the cold December air clear my head. But something kept me rooted to that spot, standing in the middle of the living room like a stranger who'd wandered into someone else's Christmas morning. That's when I saw it. On the mantel, right next to the stockings that spelled out everyone's name but mine correctly, sat a picture frame I'd never seen before. Silver. Polished. New. The kind you buy at Pottery Barn when you want something to look expensive but accessible, aspirational but relatable. I moved closer, my boots making soft sounds against the hardwood, and the image inside the frame came into focus. My entire family, sitting on the couch, in matching red plaid pajamas I didn't own. My mother on the left, her arm around my father in the middle, smiling that reserved smile he saves for photos he actually cares about. Megan on his other side, leaning into Jake, who had his arm slung across the back of the couch. All of them glowing with the kind of warmth you only see in Christmas cards people send to make their lives look better than they are. And between my mother and Megan, right where I would have sat, right where I should have sat, was an empty space. Not a gap. Not an accident. A deliberate cushion of couch, perfectly framed, perfectly lit, like a spot someone forgot to fill. Or worse, like a spot someone chose not to fill. Megan's hand rested exactly where my shoulder would have been. My stomach dropped. "We took that earlier," my mother said behind me, her voice bright and quick, like she was narrating a home video no one asked to watch. The lighting was just perfect through the window. You know how it gets around 8:30 when the sun hits the tree just right. We didn't want to miss it. I didn't turn around. I kept staring at the photo, at the empty space, at Megan's hand hovering in the air like a ghost limb. "You took the family photo without me," I said. Not a question. A statement. "We'll take another one with you later," my mother said quickly. "I promise. We'll get everyone back together after brunch, and we'll do it again. Jessica's coming at 10, right? We'll have plenty of time." But I knew we wouldn't. I'd coordinated that photo session. I'd sent the calendar invite 3 weeks ago. I'd confirmed with Jessica the photographer 2 days ago. I'd reminded everyone in the group chat to be ready by 9:45, so we wouldn't be late. And they'd already taken the picture. Before I arrived. Before 9 a.m. Before the time we all agreed on. When did you take this? I asked. Silence. When? Around 8:15, I think. Maybe 8:30. Her voice faltered. Megan wanted to make sure we got it before things got too chaotic. 8:15. I texted the group chat at 8:47 asking if I should bring anything else. My mother had replied at 8:47. Running a bit behind, take your time. She'd sent that text after they'd already taken the photo. After they'd already opened the gifts. After they'd already had their perfect Christmas morning. She'd lied. Not to protect me. To delay me. You told me to take my time, I said, my voice hollow. You told me you were running behind. We were, she said. Your father couldn't find his good slippers, and Jake was late getting here. But you were ready enough to take this picture, I said, turning to face her now. You were ready enough to open all the gifts. You were ready enough to do everything except wait for me. My father stood up from his chair, slow and deliberate, the way he always did when he thought he could de-escalate something with his presence alone. Elena, you're reading too much into this. Am I? I pulled out my phone, opened the group chat, and turned the screen toward him. December 18th. I asked everyone to confirm they'd be here at 9 a.m. You all said yes. He squinted at the screen, then looked away. Plans change. Plans changed. I repeated. But no one told me. Megan finally spoke, her voice small and defensive. We thought you'd understand. You're always so flexible. We figured you wouldn't mind. You figured I wouldn't mind, I said slowly, being left out of the family Christmas photo. She looked down at the handbag in her lap. We were going to take another one. No, I said. You weren't. Because I knew. Deep in the part of me that had been making excuses for them my entire adult life, I knew. This photo, the one on the mantle in the shiny new frame, was the one they'd already posted to Facebook. The one they'd texted to relatives. The one they'd printed and framed, because it looked exactly the way they wanted their family to look. And I wasn't in it. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I raised it slowly, deliberately, and took a picture of the frame. Of the empty space. Of the family that had erased me before I even walked through the door. Click. My mother's face went pale. Elena, what are you? I'm just remembering, I said quietly. And for the first time all morning, no one had anything to say. I didn't explode. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the misspelled gift across the room or rip the family photo off the mantle. I just stood there. And in that stillness, something inside me shifted. Not broke, shifted. Like a bone that had been out of place for years finally snapping back into alignment. It hurt. But it also felt inevitable. Necessary. True. I looked around the living room one last time. Slowly. Deliberately. Taking in every detail I'd spent weeks trying to perfect. The garland I'd strung across the mantle on December 10th. The one I'd driven to 3 different stores to find because my mother wanted real pine, not that fake stuff. The stockings I'd hung myself, each one personalized. Each one filled with small gifts I'd chosen carefully. Dark chocolate for my dad, lavender hand cream for my mom, a miniature bottle of bourbon for Jake, a Sephora gift card for Megan. The tree in the corner, the one I'd helped my father carry in from the lot on Route 59. The one we'd spent an hour adjusting because he kept saying it leaned left and I kept saying it leaned right until we finally compromised and called it straight. The dining table in the next room, set with the dishes I'd washed and arranged the night before, the cloth napkins I'd ironed, the centerpiece I'd made from pine cones and candles I bought at that boutique in Geneva. I had built this. All of it. The decorations, the schedule, the plan. I had carried this family's Christmas on my back like I'd done every year before, believing that effort equaled love, that labor equaled belonging. But standing there, staring at the empty space in the photo where I should have been, I finally understood. I had been working for a seat at a table that was never set for me. I pulled my phone out again. My hands were shaking now. But not from sadness. From clarity. From the cold, Sharp truth that comes when you stop lying to yourself. I opened my camera and started taking pictures. The wrapping paper on the floor. Click. The misspelled gift in the corner. Click. The family photo on the mantle. Click. The stockings hanging in a perfect row, mine sagging at the end. Click. Elena, stop, my mother said, her voice rising. What are you doing? I didn't answer. I kept taking pictures. My father stood up, his face darkening. Elena, put the phone down. I turned toward him, met his eyes, held his gaze. Why? I asked. Is there something you don't want me to remember? He opened his mouth, closed it, looked at my mother like she was supposed to fix this. She took a step toward me, hands raised like she was approaching a wild animal. Sweetheart, I know you're upset, but this is dramatic. I finished for her. Is that what you were going to say? Her face flushed. I was going to say unnecessary. Unnecessary, I repeated. I looked down at my phone, at the photos I'd just taken, at the evidence of a morning I wasn't invited to. You're right. This whole thing was unnecessary. Megan finally stood up, still clutching that handbag like it was a life raft. Elena, come on. Don't do this. It's Christmas. It was Christmas, I said. 2 hours ago. When you opened everything without me. I walked over to the coffee table, where the misspelled gift still sat in its corner of shame. I picked it up, held it for a moment, felt the weight of it, light and careless and wrong. Then I set it down on the table, right in the center, where everyone could see it. I'm leaving, I said. My mother's voice cracked. Elena, please. Let's just sit down and talk about this like adults. Adults, I said, don't lie to their daughter about what time Christmas starts so they can have it without her. I walked past her, past my father, past Megan, and grabbed my coat from the rack by the door. The house was so quiet I could hear the furnace kick on in the basement. Jake, who hadn't said a word the entire time, finally spoke from the couch. You're really leaving? I turned back, looked at him, at all of them. You already left me, I said. I'm just catching up. I opened the door. The cold December air hit my face, sharp and clean, like waking up from a dream you didn't realize was a nightmare. Before I stepped outside, I said one last thing. Quiet. Steady. Final. Merry Christmas. I hope it was everything you wanted. Then I walked out. And I didn't look back. The first text came 20 minutes after I left. I was sitting in my car in the driveway of a Panera on Ogden Avenue. Engine running, heat blasting, hands still shaking. I hadn't driven anywhere. I just needed to be somewhere that wasn't there. My phone lit up. Mom. Elena, please come back. Let's talk about this. You're overreacting. I stared at the screen. Watched the 3 dots appear. Disappear. Reappear. Mom, we love you. You know that. This was just a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. That word sat in my chest like a stone. I didn't reply. I turned my phone face down on the passenger seat and drove home. By the time I pulled into my apartment complex in Lyle, the group chat had exploded. Megan, seriously, Elena? You're going to ruin Christmas over a mistake? Jake, this is ridiculous. Just come back. Dad. Your mother is upset. Call her. I read every message. Let each one settle. Let the anger underneath their concern show itself clearly. Not one of them had apologized. Not one of them had acknowledged what they'd done. They were upset that I'd left. Not upset that they'd given me a reason to. I turned off my phone and sat in the silence of my apartment. The Christmas lights I'd strung across my window blinked red and green, soft and rhythmic, like a heartbeat. I made tea. I sat on my couch. I stared at the wall. And for the first time in hours, I let myself cry. Not because I was sad. Because I was angry. Angry at them. Angry at myself for believing this year would be different. December 26th. The messages kept coming. Mom, I don't understand why you're being so stubborn. We said we'd take another photo. Why are you making this so hard? Megan. People are asking me why you weren't in the family photo we posted. What am I supposed to tell them? I almost laughed. She was worried about what people would think. Not about what she'd done. Not about how it felt to be erased. Just about how it looked. I didn't respond. Instead, I called my best friend Rachel. She picked up on the second ring. "Tell me you're not spending the day alone," she said. "I'm spending the day alone," I said. "Elena." "I left," I said. "I walked out of Christmas." There was a pause. Then, "Good." I blinked. "Good. Yes. Good." Her voice was firm, unwavering. "You've been bending over backward for them for years, and they've never once bent for you. I'm proud of you." I hadn't realized how badly I needed to hear that until she said it. We talked for an hour. She told me about her own family drama, about the year she stopped going home for Thanksgiving because her mother kept introducing her as our daughter who's still figuring things out. She told me that walking away wasn't cruelty. It was clarity. When we hung up, I felt steadier. Not healed, but steadier. December 27th. The doubt crept in. I was scrolling through my photos, the ones I'd taken at my parents' house, and I started second-guessing everything. Maybe I had overreacted. Maybe it was just a mistake. Maybe they really had planned to take another photo, and I'd just been too hurt to believe them. I opened the group chat. Started typing. "Maybe we can talk after the holidays. I just need some space right now." I hovered over the send button. Then I looked at the photo on my screen. The one of the empty couch cushion. The one where Megan's hand rested where my shoulder should have been. I deleted the message. I wasn't imagining this. I wasn't being dramatic. The evidence was right there, time-stamped, documented, undeniable. They had chosen to start Christmas without me. They had chosen to take the family photo without me. They had chosen to spell my name wrong, to shove my gift in a corner, to lie about the schedule so I wouldn't arrive in time. Those weren't accidents. Those were choices. December 28th. My phone rang at 11:43 a.m. My mother's name lit up the screen. I let it ring. She called again. Then texted. "Mom. Elena, your grandmother is flying in for New Year's Eve. Can you pick her up from O'Hare on the 30th? Her flight lands at 2 p.m. I stared at the message. Not "How are you?" Not "Can we talk?" Not "I'm sorry." Just a request. Another favor. Another assumption that I would show up and help because that's what I always did. For 32 years, I had been the one they called when they needed something. The one who rearranged her schedule, drove across town, picked up the slack. The one who said yes because saying no felt like betrayal. But sitting there, staring at that text, I realized something. They had betrayed me first. I typed 5 words. 5 words I had never said to my mother in my entire life. "Me, I'm busy." I hit send before I could change my mind. 3 dots appeared immediately. "Mom busy? Elena, this is your grandmother. She's 84. She can't take an Uber." Me. "Then someone else will have to pick her up." The dots stopped. Then started again. Then stopped. No response. I set my phone down. My hands weren't shaking anymore. For the first time in 3 days, I felt something other than anger or sadness or doubt. I felt free. The silence lasted exactly 18 hours. Then everything fell apart. It started on December 29th, 2 days before New Year's Eve. I was working from home, halfway through a project deadline, when my phone started buzzing. Not texts this time. Calls. Jake. Then Megan. Then my father. Then my mother again. I ignored all of them. Finally, a voicemail from Jake, his voice tight and frustrated in a way I'd never heard before. "Elena, I don't know what your problem is, but you need to call Mom back. Grandma Dorothy's flight lands tomorrow and no one can pick her up. Dad has a conference call he can't move. Megan has a hair appointment. Mom's car is in the shop. I'm in Milwaukee for work. You're the only one who's free." I listened to the message twice, then deleted it. I wasn't the only one who was free. I was the only one they expected to drop everything. 20 minutes later, the group chat lit up. "Dad. Elena, this is getting out of hand. Your grandmother needs a ride from O'Hare. Stop being childish and help your family. Megan, seriously Elena. It's Grandma. Are you really going to make an 84-year-old woman figure out how to get a rideshare because you're mad at us? Mom. I don't understand what's gotten into you. This isn't like you. I read every message. Let them sit. Let the entitlement behind each word reveal itself. Then I typed one sentence. Me, you'll figure it out. I muted the group chat. By December 30th, the cracks were showing. My phone buzzed with a text from my Aunt Linda, my mother's older sister who lived in Schaumburg, and only called when someone told her to. Aunt Linda, your mother says you're refusing to help with your grandmother? What's going on, honey? So my mother was recruiting allies now. Spreading the story. Painting me as the ungrateful daughter who abandoned the family over nothing. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened Instagram. Scrolled to Megan's profile. She'd posted the family photo. The one from Christmas morning. The one without me. The caption read, "Best Christmas ever with my favorite people. Feeling so blessed." 218 likes. 34 comments. I scrolled through them. You guys look perfect. Such a beautiful family. Love the matching PJs. Then I saw one that made me stop. Wait, isn't Elena usually in these? Where is she? Megan had replied. She couldn't make it this year. Couldn't make it. Not we started without her. Not we excluded her. Just a lie, clean and simple, designed to protect the image. I screenshot it. Added it to the folder on my phone I'd labeled evidence. That evening, my mother called again. This time I answered. Elena. Her voice was strained, barely holding together. We need to talk. I'm listening, I said. Your grandmother landed an hour ago. She's been sitting at baggage claim waiting. She called me crying because no one was there to pick her up. Your father had to leave his meeting early to drive all the way to O'Hare in rush hour traffic. Do you know how humiliating this is? I let the silence stretch. Elena, are you there? I'm here, I said calmly. And I told you I was busy. Busy, she repeated, her voice rising. You weren't busy. You were punishing us. No, Mom, I said. I was doing exactly what you taught me to do. I was putting myself first. She inhaled sharply. That's not, Elena, we're your family. We need you. You didn't need me on Christmas morning, I said. You didn't need me for the family photo. You didn't need me when you opened all the gifts without me. But now suddenly, you need me? That's different. It's not, I said. You need me when it's convenient. When there's something I can do for you. But you don't need me when it's just about being together. When it's just about love. Her breath hitched. Elena, please. I don't want to fight anymore. Then stop asking me to pretend, I said. I hung. December 31st. New Year's Eve. The group chat erupted again. Jake. Where's the reservation info for dinner tonight? I thought you booked it. Megan. Elena, did you confirm the reservation at that Italian place on Jefferson? I can't find it in my email. Dad. Elena, your mother needs the name of the restaurant. Can you send it? I stared at the messages. Let them pile up. Let the panic build. Because I hadn't booked a reservation. For the first time in 7 years, I hadn't coordinated New Year's Eve dinner. I hadn't called the restaurant. I hadn't confirmed the time. I hadn't sent the calendar invite. I had let them assume I would. The way I always did. But this year I didn't. I didn't make a reservation. The group chat went silent. Then. Megan. What do you mean you didn't make a reservation? I mean I didn't make one. I'm not coming to dinner. Mom. Elena, you always handle this. Where are we supposed to go? I don't know. But I'm sure you'll figure it out. I muted the chat again. At 6 p.m., I poured myself a glass of wine, put on my favorite sweater, and started setting up my apartment. String lights. Candles. A playlist I'd made weeks ago. I texted Rachel, my coworker Daniel, and my neighbor Claire. People who had been kinder to me in 1 year than my family had been in 10. New Year's Eve at my place. Low-key. Just us. You in? All three replied within minutes. Absolutely. I'll bring champagne. Can't wait. By 7 p.m., my apartment was full of laughter, warmth, and people who actually wanted me there. And somewhere across town, my family was scrambling to salvage a holiday they'd taken for granted. Just like they'd taken me. The doorbell rang at 8:14 p.m. I was in the middle of laughing at something Daniel said. A glass of champagne in my hand, surrounded by people who had chosen to spend their New Year's Eve with me. Not out of obligation. Not because they needed something. Just because they wanted to be there. The music was playing softly, something jazzy and warm. Claire was setting up a board game on the coffee table. Rachel was in the kitchen refilling the cheese plate I'd put together from Trader Joe's. For the first time in weeks, I felt light. Then the doorbell rang again. Insistent. Urgent. I set my glass down and walked to the door already knowing who it was. Some part of me had been waiting for this moment since Christmas morning. I opened the door. My entire family stood in the hallway of my apartment building in Lyle. My mother in her wool coat, mascara smudged under her eyes. My father behind her, hands shoved in his pockets, looking anywhere but at me. Megan, arms crossed, face blotchy from crying. Jake, standing off to the side like he'd been dragged there against his will. My mother was holding something. The box. The one with the misspelled name. The one I'd left on their coffee table. Elena, she said, her voice breaking. We need to talk. I didn't move. Didn't open the door wider. Just stood there, blocking the entrance. We made a mistake, she continued, tears starting to fall. A terrible mistake. Please. Let us explain. Behind me, I heard the music lower. Felt Rachel step closer, protective but silent. There's nothing to explain, I said quietly. Yes, there is, my mother insisted. We weren't thinking. We got caught up in the moment. We didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't mean to, I repeated. You didn't mean to start Christmas without me. You didn't mean to take the family photo without me. You didn't mean to spell my name wrong. You didn't mean to lie about the schedule. You just did all of those things. Accidentally. My father finally spoke, his voice rough. We're here to apologize. Now you are, I said. 3 days after I left. After Grandma Dorothy didn't get picked up. After no one made a dinner reservation. After everything started falling apart. Now you're sorry. Megan stepped forward, her voice desperate. Elena, please. We need you. The family doesn't work without you. And there it was. The truth they'd been dancing around for years. You're right, I said. The family doesn't work without me. Because I've been the one holding it together. I've been the one planning, coordinating, showing up, fixing everything while you all just enjoyed the results. But you didn't need me. You needed what I could do for you. My mother's face crumpled. That's not true. It is, I said, my voice steady, calm. You didn't invite me to Christmas. You invited the version of me that makes your life easier. The one who doesn't complain. The one who always says yes. The one who pretends it doesn't hurt to be forgotten. Silence filled the hallway. Even Jake looked down at his shoes. We thought you'd forgive us, Megan whispered. Like you always do. I nodded slowly. I know. That's the problem. My mother held out the box, her hands shaking. We brought your gift. We wanted to give it to you properly. Please, Elena. Don't throw us away over this. I looked at the box. At the misspelled name. At the people who had raised me, who were supposed to love me, who had taught me that my worth was measured by how much I could give and how little I could ask for in return. I'm not throwing you away, I said softly. You already did that. On Christmas morning. When you chose to have the holiday without me. I took a breath. Behind me, I could hear my friends talking quietly, giving me space but staying close. I hope you have a good new year, I said. I really do. But I'm spending mine with people who actually want me here. My mother opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. I stepped back. And gently, without anger, without drama, I closed the door. For a long moment, I stood there, hand on the doorknob, listening to the muffled sounds of my family in the hallway. Whispers. Footsteps. The elevator dinging. Then Rachel's hand touched my shoulder. You okay? I turned around. Looked at the people in my apartment. At the laughter still hanging in the air. At the life I was building that didn't require me to shrink. Yeah, I said. I really am. At 11:47 p.m., we gathered in my small living room in Lyle, glasses raised, countdown playing softly on the TV in the background. Rachel stood to my left, her arm looped through mine. Daniel was laughing at something Claire had said, his champagne threatening to spill. The apartment smelled like vanilla candles and the chocolate cake Claire had brought from that bakery on Main Street in Downers Grove. This wasn't the New Year's Eve I'd imagined 3 weeks ago when I was planning spreadsheets and coordinating family dinners, and believing that effort equaled love. But it was better, because everyone in this room had chosen to be here. Not out of obligation. Not because tradition demanded it. Not because I'd begged or coordinated or convinced them. They were here because they wanted to be. At 11:59, the countdown began. 10, 9, 8. I thought about my family, probably sitting in a restaurant they'd scrambled to find at the last minute, pretending everything was fine, pretending I was the problem. 7, 6, 5. I thought about all the years I'd spent trying to earn a seat at their table, trying to prove I mattered, trying to believe that if I just worked harder, showed up more, gave more, eventually they'd see me the way they saw Megan, the way they saw everyone else. 4, free, 2. But standing there, surrounded by people who already saw me, I realized something I should have known years ago. I didn't need their table. I had built my own. 1. Happy New Year, everyone shouted. Rachel pulled me into a hug. Daniel raised his glass. Claire clinked hers against mine, grinning. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not the kind that comes from pretending everything is okay. The kind that comes from finally accepting the truth and choosing yourself anyway. At 12:01 a.m., my phone buzzed. I pulled it out of my pocket. A text from my mother. Mom, we're sorry. Can we try again? I stared at the message. Let it sit there, glowing on the screen. Rachel glanced over my shoulder. You gonna reply? I thought about it. Thought about what I would have done a month ago, a year ago, 10 years ago. I would have replied immediately. Would have said yes, of course. Would have apologized for making them feel bad. Would have folded myself back into their lives like nothing had happened. But tonight, I did something different. I put my phone in my pocket. Didn't reply. Didn't delete the message. Just let it sit there, unanswered, the way I'd sat in that living room on Christmas morning. Unseen, unacknowledged, waiting for someone to notice I mattered. Not tonight, I said. Rachel squeezed my hand. Good. Daniel raised his glass again. To boundaries. To choosing yourself, Claire added. I smiled. Raised my glass. To finding your people. We drank. We laughed. We stayed up until 2 a.m. talking about nothing and everything. And when everyone finally left, I stood alone in my apartment, surrounded by the quiet hum of a life I was finally living on my own terms. I walked to the window, looked out at the snow falling softly over Lisle, covering the streets in clean white silence. My phone buzzed again. Another text. Then another. I didn't check them, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for someone else to validate my worth. I already knew it. They thought silence was surrender. But I learned that silence was clarity. It was power. It was the moment I stopped performing for people who only valued me when I was useful. You don't owe anyone access to your peace. Not your parents. Not your siblings. Not even the people who raised you. Especially not the people who taught you that love was something you had to earn instead of something you deserved just by existing. If you've ever been the one left out of your own family, I see you. If you've ever walked away from a table that didn't have space for you, I'm proud of you. If you've ever chosen yourself when everyone else expected you to choose them, you're not alone. Tell me your story in the comments below. Where are you watching from? What boundary did you finally draw? What moment made you realize you deserved better? Hit that subscribe button if you're done shrinking to fit into spaces that were never built for you. Because your story matters. Your voice matters. And you deserve a seat at a table where no one questions whether you belong. This year I'm choosing me. And I hope you choose you too. Happy New Year.